Welcome, my friend, to Underground Secrets of Direct Response Marketing. Now, why do I call it Underground Secrets? Well, because the information inside of this module, this episode alone, is responsible for not only billions and billions and billions of dollars in sales online from regular people like you and I who are just creating ads and sales letters and sales funnels from their home offices at home. But it's also the exact marketing style and strategy that I've used over the course of the last decade to have all of my success. And in this episode, I'm going to take you back in time and I'm going to show you the legendary marketers whose shoulders that we stand on. Now, another reason why this episode is called Underground Secrets of Direct Response Marketing is because what you're going to learn inside of this episode is underground. It is not taught in classrooms and in general marketing courses, books, or classes around the world. What's taught in classrooms around the world is branding, is billboards, is brand colors, which is why so many people, when they start a business offline or particularly online, the first thing that they do is say, I got to go have my logo made and I got to go have my website designed. And then they come to this point to where they've spent all that time and money designing their logo and designing their website. And then they go, yay, I'm in business. Only to realize that their logo and their website are an island out in the middle of the ocean that nobody knows about. And now they have no idea how to get people to notice them, how to get their attention. And if they did have people somehow find their website from them, maybe posting it on their Facebook profile or something, that people would just come to their website, poke around a little bit, go from page to page to page, read their About Me section and their mission statement, and then they would leave their website without them ever knowing it. And that's what marketing is really all about to most people. But what we find out and learn when we start to learn about direct response marketing is that direct response marketing is about bringing somebody to a place, a page, for example, a landing page to where you're soliciting a specific response. And that's probably something that you've noticed with our marketing here. Any pages, for example, if you can remember back to when you came in to our ecosystem for the very first time, what is the very first page that you saw from us? It was a landing page to where you had to enter your email address or leave the page. There was one thing that you could do. That's called direct response marketing. We're soliciting a direct response. And usually, as I'll talk about here in a minute, it's to a pre-selected customer, which means that you are likely targeted by some sort of an ad or with a certain message. So it wasn't just throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping that it sticks, which is really what we see on TV, right? We see commercials that are run to the entire general public. There's no pre-selected targeting. There's billboards that are set up on the side of the road that just everybody sees. There's no pre-selected targeting. And that's in some ways what many companies have had to do, right? It's been their only option. But as the evolution of a mailbox being stuck at the front of your house, or you buying a telephone that people could call, or of course the internet, to where sites like Facebook or YouTube were able to collect information on you to know what your interests were, savvy marketers were able to place ads in front of exactly who they thought would be most likely to respond to that ad. So these direct response marketing strategies that we already knew worked, like bringing people to a landing page and getting their email in exchange for a free gift, or bringing them to a sales page to where they watched one video and then there was one decision to make. Do you want to buy this or not? Now we could advertise to the people that we thought were the most likely to buy our products because of the evolution of this technology. So in this episode, you're going to be introduced to the strategies that make this all work. First and foremost, copywriting. The words that are on the page are what matter the most. And then the type of page that you use is also highly important. So let's get into this and let's learn both the history of how this started and how this was born, because it was born really many decades ago. And the first place that a lot of these legendary marketers whose shoulders we stand on, where they got their start, were using actual what's called direct mail. Okay? So welcome to this episode. I'm absolutely thrilled and excited for you to learn this information. It is game changing. It is game changing. And this is a breakthrough, the breakthrough that is going to be the difference maker between your basically marketing demise and your potential success. And you're going to have in your hands and, of course, in your brain information that people who graduate college with actual marketing degrees don't know. And how do I know that? Well, not because I've graduated college with a marketing degree, but because I've interviewed and had many marketing professionals / college graduates with marketing degrees apply to come and work for me. But when I realized they didn't know anything about direct response marketing, I realized that they didn't actually have the skills and the information that I needed them to have in order to help us be more successful. So in this episode, you're going to learn all about that. When people think about marketing, they don't think about direct response marketing. They think about generalized marketing. And I'll give you some examples here in a second. Now, you can look up direct marketing under Wikipedia. It'll give you a definition that says direct marketing is a form of communicating an offer where organizations communicate directly to a pre-selected customer. And that's really important. A pre-selected, a targeted customer, and they supply a method for a direct response. Among practitioners, it is also known as direct response marketing. By contrast, advertising is of a mass message nature. Okay? Response channels include 800 numbers, reply cards, reply forms to be sent in an envelope, websites, and email addresses. So basically what they're saying that's really important for me to translate here for you, if this is something that's brand new to you, is it's important that you have a pre-selected customer, a target perfect customer that you're targeting. I'm going to introduce you to something called the fishing formula later. We're going to dive in. The first piece of that fishing formula is species, right? When you think about, I'm going to go fishing, if you want to actually catch fish, you need to be thinking about what's the type of species I'm going to be targeting, because that's going to determine the reel I'm going to take, the chum I'm going to take, the bait I'm going to take, all that stuff, right? If I think I'm going to catch grouper, which is a saltwater fish in a freshwater lake, and I bring all the equipment to catch grouper, I'm probably not going to catch any fish. So pre-selected customer is the first piece to really pay attention to in this definition. And also, it's known, by contrast, advertising is generally of mass message nature, which means that a TV commercial like the one that you see right here, okay, you've got a Coke commercial. It's pretty much generalized to it's just shown usually in between shows, and typically not a whole lot of targeting that's taking place, right? Whereas if one way to be more targeted with TV commercials would be to show specific products that are related to the show that's being aired. But in general, billboards on the side of the road, TV commercials, radio ads generally are intended to create brand recognition, which means that when you hear it and then you see it somewhere, it's got some credibility, or you've already heard of it before, and you're no longer a cold prospect, but you've been warmed up a little bit. So you might watch a Coke commercial, and then next time you're in the store, you've already thought about Coke. You've seen maybe positive imagery from the commercial, somebody enjoying a bottle of Coke, and then you reach for one unconsciously. Reach for one. That sounds good right now. That would taste good right now. The opposite of that would be something like a direct response Facebook ad, to where you're scrolling throughout your timeline and there's a specific offer. In this case, it's learn the secret to grow your business 5 times more effectively with Facebook ads, get the free ebook. And you're going to click that button and you're going to go to a landing page. You're going to put in your email and click download, and it's going to email you, or that ebook is going to be available for download on the next page. Specific offer to a specific targeted audience. Okay. Now, is that to say that you can't have commercials that don't have more direct response nature? No, that's not to say that that's not possible, because in many cases you do have infomercials or quick call to action direct response commercials, to where you see them on TV and maybe there's a special offer for the next 30 minutes and it gives you a phone number to call. That would be more direct response. But the point about direct response marketing is it's targeted towards a specific person, and there's a specific offer. You're looking or giving that prospect a specific way to respond, direct to consumer. Here's another example, okay, of direct response versus sort of generalized marketing. This is our website, and then this is a landing page. Now, our website is what most people think that they need, like a website to well, I got my website up. I'm off to the races now. I'm going to be a business money-making machine. And so they spend all this money on a website. They get it all built. It's pretty. It's got their home page and their about page, and it tells their story and their products and maybe even a couple of blog posts, and they put it up in the middle of the internet in tumbleweeds. Nobody knows. Nobody knows it exists. And if they did know exists, 9 times out of 10, they come to the website, they browse around just a little bit, and then they leave. And they go buy from somebody who uses more direct response marketing. Our website is a branding piece. It's something that is a credibility piece. You know, it hosts our blog post. It hosts our about section, where somebody can, if they want to read about the CEO or the team or whatever, they can go and do that. In websites that people understand websites, so they might say, if you're talking to somebody, what's your website, or something like that. You have to have a website to be able to apply for merchant accounts and various different vendors, and on other applications you put your website address. But besides that, in terms of making sales, a website is about as useless as a snow shovel is to somebody in Florida. On the other hand, a landing page, some call it a squeeze page, because you'll click an ad like the one that I just showed you. You will land on a page like this that will be a continuation of what was said in that ad, you know, give you the opportunity, you know, the congruency from the ad to the landing page. And there's only one thing to do on that landing page. You're soliciting a specific response from somebody to click a button and to typically enter their email address. For the last 10 years that I've been doing this, and 10 plus years, and for as long as I've known about online marketing or studied online marketing, which we'll get into even more history here in a second, collecting email addresses in terms of that first step has always been the first step after getting them to click on an ad or watch a video of some sort somewhere on YouTube, etc. This is all website, more generalized branding marketing, mass marketing, landing page specific, and soliciting a direct response. Now, let's go over here and let's look at this. This is another thing. People spend a whole lot of time making their logos and coming up with their mottos and taglines and jingles versus a sales letters or sales videos. Now, this particular video sells one of our products and are a challenge that we run. You may have taken it. And it's a 20-minute video that there's nothing else you can do on the page. It's got a headline that hooks the person to potentially get them curious enough or provide a big enough benefit for them to watch the video. And then after that countdown timer counts down to 0, there's a button that pops up below that video. And there's one thing to do. It's buy, or they can X out of the page and leave. And that's a very specific and direct response. And what that helps to do is keep the person, the visitor who's clicked the ad, who landed on the landing page and entered their email and now is on this page, it keeps them focused on the one thing that we want them to do, which is watch the video, and then the specific direct response we want from people is to click that button below that video when it ends into go to the checkout page and check out. So hopefully you're understanding the difference between generalized mass marketing, branding style marketing, and direct response marketing. Direct response marketing is more about words than it is about pretty images and logos and all this kind of stuff. As you can see on this sales page, which sells this information product for us, there's no cute logos, there's no cute designs. As a matter of fact, one rule in direct response marketing, it's not a hardcore, take it to the bank every time rule, but it's a pretty consistent rule, is ugly sells better. Ugly sells. And what does that mean? It means that pages that have less design and fluff and distractions with more of a focus on the words, the copy. Does the copy speak? Does it agitate? Does it properly position the problem, and does it agitate the problem? And then does it provide a solution or enough curiosity in just that headline to get them to watch the video? And of course, video sales letters are popular, but for a long time it was written sales letters. I'm going to show you some of those here in a moment. Here's the big point and why I'm going through this, why I'm showing this to you. We talked in the last module about information products and the history of information products in the e-learning industry. And now I'm talking about direct response marketing. And the reason why I'm talking about direct response marketing is because these two they go together really well. But even if you have an information product, I do see people who are selling ebooks and courses and stuff, but their marketing is not clear. It's not specific. It's not persuasive. And they don't use the direct response marketing principles, some of which I'm going to go over and more of which you'll learn. Not only you've been learning them from interacting with me in our company already. If you pay attention, proof that they work is that you're here, because we don't even use any other marketing principles really. But direct response marketing, copywriting, using landing pages, sales pages, even in affiliate marketing, using landing pages, bridge pages, these principles work because they're so focused, and at each step of the way, you're only soliciting one response from your visitor, from your prospect. So when you show them an ad or a video, you're only asking them to do one thing: click the link. or even an email. One thing, click the link. When they get to your landing page, you're only asking them to do one thing. If they're brand new, you're asking them to enter their email. When they come to see a sales, an offer for a product that you're promoting, on each page, you should only be asking them to do one thing. Why? Why does direct response marketing work? Well, because one of the principles is the simplicity of the things you're asking somebody to do. And the less you ask somebody to do, the less confused they'll be. And that's why sometimes when you have a sales page that has, would you like to sign up for yearly or annual? Even that decision alone can be enough to make somebody leave because, you know what, I don't feel like making that decision right now. Whereas if it's a more direct response marketing formula would be to just offer them the monthly and then offer them the annual as an upsell. Once they check out, say, hey, would you like to save a little bit of money and go ahead and take the annual plan? Because at each place that they land, each step of the process, you only want to be asking for one decision from them at a time. Okay? So I'm going to introduce you to some more legends, all right? And those legends that I'm going to introduce you to, whose shoulders that we stand on, have used direct response marketing to successfully sell info products before the term e-learning or work from home was ever coined and became mainstream. And again, in the last segment, I talked about sort of the history of e-learning and information, the information industry, and I gave you lots of examples of other companies who have been selling, newsletters and ebooks and courses and so forth. And now in the rest of this module, I'm going to show you marketers and copywriters who have created and written ads and landing pages and sales letters that have sold information. Okay? And we're going to more look at how they've done it. We're going to look at some of these older sales letters and ads, and we're even going to look at old direct mail pieces that they used to mail out to people's homes. And we're going to identify the direct response marketing tactics that were used in these letters because these are the real legends, the real icons that really mastered this form of marketing. And really nowadays, this gets muddied up a lot because there's so many different people doing so many different types of marketing online, and there's so many different platforms that a lot of people who get into online marketing think that online marketing is like posting memes on Instagram and it's not. It's not. It's about writing powerful, compelling ads or shooting powerful, compelling videos that provide edutainment and that ask edutainment, education, and entertainment, and that ask for a specific response, and then taking people to a landing page, building your email list by asking for that email one thing at a time, and then bringing them to a bridge page as an affiliate and saying, hey, thanks for opting in. Now I'm going to send you over to something that I highly recommend you take a look at. And on that page, you should also be promoting products that use direct response marketing strategies, because if you do, you'll sell more versus sending them to websites and leaving it up to the customer to kind of surf around, if you will. I put that in quotations, surf around the site and figure out what's best for them, right? People don't do that. People don't do that. They don't buy that way. Not on the internet anyways. So the legends that I'm about to introduce you to are the real life madmen of the marketing world. And as you can see, ad men. There's a show, you may have seen it. It's called Mad Men. It's about an old advertising firm, and And these are the real life ones, right? These are a lot of the folks that I'm about to introduce you to are my mentors, guys that I've studied their marketing. Unfortunately, I don't have, there's not a lot of diversity. It's all a bunch of, dudes. So sorry, ladies. Not a lot of diversity in the cultural backgrounds of these guys either. But, bear with me, because these copywriters and these marketers sort of laid the foundation for this style of marketing and figured out early on how to sell with little to no flash and trash, fancy design or graphics or logos or anything, but just using words. Okay. So the first one is John Carlton. And, I took this from one of his websites. He's sitting at his office on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, across from the Roxy in the notorious 9000 building, at the big desk in Halbert Suite. That's Gary Halbert, another famous copywriter, where much of the early magic happened circa 1989. So this is John Carlton. He's a guy that I've been enamored with for many years, and great copywriter. For example, this is one of the sales letters that he wrote to sell a golfing course, okay? And as you can see, just from top to bottom, I geek out on this stuff. Want to slash strokes from your game almost overnight? Amazing secret discovered by one-legged golfer adds 50 yards to your drives, eliminates hooks and slices, and can slash up to 10 strokes from your game almost overnight. So why am I showing you this? Well, this is selling a like I said, a golfing course, and this is from the 80s or the 90s was when this was written, and I'm going to give you a copy of this, as well as every other sales letter that I'm about to show you, or ad that I'm about to show you, and more, even from John Carlton. I'm going to show you one example from him, but I'm going to give you several others. And what you'll notice here with this is, again, ugly sells. So there's nothing special. And this is a screenshot from the sales page. There's nothing special about the design here. So I'm helping you to unlearn some of the things that you might think are important about marketing. When you go to build your landing pages, when you go to write your ads, when you go to create your bridge pages, your affiliate marketing bridge pages, if you don't know what that means, just hang in there. But here's the big takeaway, is that ugly sells. It's not, the words are what matter. The fact that you can present whatever the problem is, which in this case, it's a golfer wanting to slash strokes from their game almost overnight, right? That's really what golfers want to do. And what he's doing is he's using a powerful story, even one that would catch your attention, like a one-legged golfer, like what the hell, right? Adds, amazing secret. What's the amazing secret? Like, that headline is all about catching your attention, and that's called a hook. A hook, a headline, something that catches your attention, that gets you to pay attention to read that next sub headline, and then go into the letter where he starts with, "Dear friend, if you've ever wanted to drive a golf ball with the explosive velocity of a Hotwitzer cannon, adding half the length of a football field to your tee shots alone while hitting all your fairways and greens with masterful precision, then this will be the most important message you ever read." So there he goes right off the bat, and he's pulling you in by saying, if you ever wanted to be a better golfer, hit longer, hit stronger, this will be the most important message you ever read. So this is the start of a direct response, hard-hitting sales letter that at the end is going to sell a course or an ebook about golfing. Okay, so again, I'm going to give you a copy of that letter, and you can read it and geek out on it just like I do. And the other thing that's really interesting and powerful and important about accumulating various different types of marketing ads, sales letters, and so forth is that you begin to build yourself a nice, what we call a swipe file, which is something that when you need inspiration for an ad, when you need inspiration for a landing page, when you need inspiration for a sales page, bridge page, whatever, you can go into your swipe file and you can swipe ideas the same way that an artist would, quote, swipe inspiration from maybe another painting or a sunset or something to go ahead and paint his or hers next painting, okay? So we as marketers, there's nothing wrong with gaining inspiration from other marketers, and a lot of times it's the best way to solve writer's block. You're trying to write an ad, you're trying to write an email, and you're looking for an idea. You're sitting there with a blank page, go into your swipe file, and that's a lot of the ways that I've been able to learn copywriting, writing powerful sales messages that sell, powerful ads that get people to click, okay, is that I've studied and read other great marketers and copywriters, sales letters, ads, etc. Let's move on. Gary Halbert, the gentleman that was just mentioned by John Carlton, wildly known and called by many the greatest copywriter who ever lived. On top of his mountain of advertising gems over a legendary career, he wrote the Boron Letters, a series of letters explaining insider tactics and sage wisdom to his youngest son, Bond, which for many copywriters and marketers have become the crown jewel in their collection. Okay, many of these copywriters have wrote various books and so far forth, all of which you can go and grab on Amazon or whatever if you're looking for good quality marketing material to read. This is the kind of stuff that'll take your game to the next level. Not the new, whatever book from Gary Guru that's going to tell you to, post more memes on Facebook. Like, that's, I'm sorry to pee on your parade. That is not what is going to help you make money. It's not what's going to help you sell more. It's just not. This is. When you combine this with other activities, you'll do better. But if you just think that, hey, it's just posting more content. About what, right? You need to learn how to create headlines. One of the most important things if you're going to create a video is how do you write a headline for that video. The first thing that somebody's going to do before they choose to watch your video is they're going to read the headline. And most new marketers' headlines suck. So you have to learn how to write headlines that capture people's attention. We'll get to more specific copywriting skills later on. Go through this course before you start consuming other information. But be careful what you read about marketing, because all marketing training is not created equal. He's a copywriter that wrote the famous $1 stapled to the top of the sales letter. This was for a business opportunity. Again, I'm going to attach this in the file. You can download it below this video. I'm going to give you a couple of pieces of Gary Halbert's work as well. Okay. Eugene Schwartz. He wrote a television advert that sold to 1 in every 14 American TV owners. He made $50 million from a textbook on natural health. He received over 2 million orders on a fishing lure. And in 1966, he wrote a book called Breakthrough Advertising, which is widely regarded as the holy grail of copywriting books. He's an absolute genius at writing successful copywriting campaigns. Okay? This actually, in the next video in this course, I'm going to read this letter and geek out on it with you. But one of the things that I just want to point out is that this is for basically a health product, to get in shape, do exercise, look, it's a health/fitness offer, book, whatever that, and information. Back in the day, things were not online. So what they had to do was actually write a sales letter, excuse me, and then they would mail it out to people. And then, somebody would walk out to their mailbox and they would bring it inside, read it, get amped up, say, I want this. Then they would have to cut out that coupon down at the bottom and attach their like cash or their credit card information or their check or whatever, and then mail it back in, and then they would then receive the book or the course. I mean, it's just compared to what we have to do now, to where we can just, run an ad or have somebody watch a video on YouTube or whatever, click a link, sell them a digital product, and it's like night and day, which goes to show how powerful direct response marketing is when used correctly. There's absolutely no way that Eugene Schwartz or anybody that he was writing for. In this particular case, he was the copywriter for this Dr. Peter, who you can see down at the bottom left, the author there. There's no way that Eugene Schwartz would have been able to create a piece of marketing material that would have sold this book that if it was just a picture of the book and it was just like, hey, get in shape. He had to write this letter the way that he wrote it. This ad, if you will. It's basically an ad and a sales letter in one, but it's the words. It's the words that he said, the words that he used, which solicited the direct response. There's one thing that the person could do that was reading this letter, which was respond back via mail and buy this thing. Moving on, Gary Bencivenga is another phenomenal, legendary copywriter. His controls are nearly impossible to beat. Hall of Fame, and this is actually being said by John Carlton, the first copywriter, marketer we looked at. But Hall of Fame copywriter Gary Bencivenga is without question one of the top 3 greatest living direct response copywriters in the world, with decades of monster winners for large mailers like Boardroom. I mentioned Boardroom in the last video, a large brand that sold various different information products, mostly back in the 70s and 80s through, again, direct response, so forth. Phillips Rodale is another company. His respect among his peers is infinite, and his controls are nearly impossible to beat. I had my first big breakthrough as a rookie by deconstructing his letters and carefully transcribing his phrasing and word choices. So, there's a nugget right there. Here's John Carlton, who said he had his first big breakthrough from deconstructing one of Gary's sales letters and carefully transcribing his phrasing and word choices. So, there's a lot of some of the best training that you can get is studying, not always courses, but studying actual marketing that marketers do, sales letters that they write, ads that they write. If you can get the entire series nowadays, if you can get somebody's like Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever, and then you can get their landing page and you can get their sales page and you can look at all of them and see, okay, the congruency between them, what's the big idea, what's the big hook behind it. You can learn a lot. You can learn a lot by just studying and looking at what marketers are doing, not always what they're saying. This was one of his winners that he wrote. You notice that one of the elements of direct response marketing and copywriting in particular, which at a core, copywriting, which is using the written word to persuade, is sort of the foundation of all direct response marketing, because even in video scripts, those start out written, so that's why copywriting is such a big skill to learn. It's learning how to use that keyboard, that written word, to be able to sell and persuade. It doesn't matter, even if you're doing video marketing, those headlines, that little bit of text that is getting people to be interested in watching your video is important. But also, using a headline leading into the sales letter, a lead, using bullet points, and then using bonuses. In this case, you can see on the right-hand side, 5 free reports if you respond right now. So, bonus 1, bonus 2, bonus 3, bonus 4. Again, I'm going to give you this letter. You can read it. Obviously, down at the bottom, you can see the direct call to action. Call this 24-hour toll-free hotline, or mail your check to in the given address. So, there's a lot to learn from looking at this. This is what we would call, and you've heard this probably before, create an irresistible offer. Well, you can see how these marketers, these copywriters, in short order, certainly there's sales letters that are 30 and 40 pages long, but in short order, these are rather short, create enough interest and demonstrate enough value and are irresistible enough as an offer to get somebody to respond. These are marketing pieces to study, to read, okay, which is why I'm giving them to you. Claude Hopkins. David Ogilvy, who I'll introduce you here in a second, wrote in an introduction to the 1960 edition of Scientific Advertising published by Crown Publishing, New York. In part, he said, "Nobody at any level should be allowed to have anything to do with advertising until he has read this book 7 times. It changed the course of my life." I wouldn't recommend not having anything to do with marketing until you read that book 7 times, but it's certainly a book to put on your list if you can get a hold of it. Here's one that a sales letter that he wrote for an advertising agency that he was working for. And again, you can check it out, read it. I'm going to give it to you on the link down below this video. And then David Ogilvy. David, a British advertising tycoon, founder of Ogilvy and Mather, and known as the father of advertising. He has written lots of copy for some information products, but this is an interesting ad that he wrote for Rolls-Royce. So this is a direct response marketing piece with a great powerful headline, sub-headline, and bullet points, which is a bit of an unorthodox way to write this letter. It's more of a soft call to action at the end. It says, if you would like the rewarding experience. I just love that. To be a great marketer, you must fall in love with words. Fall in love with words. If you'd like the rewarding experience of driving a Rolls-Royce or Bentley, write or telephone to one of the dealers listed on page 54. So not a hardcore call to action, but enough benefits if you read this, enough benefits. Even that last line, if you'd like the rewarding experience. When you read this, you'll see how irresistible and almost like a fantasy, like a dream, he frames owning a Rolls-Royce and having that rewarding experience. Again, words, certainly they have a picture in this, and pictures, there's nothing wrong with having pictures, but as you can see, it's not about design, it's not about fancy, it's about, in this case, what makes the ad is not really, it's not the image at all. The image is fine. It's okay. The Rolls-Royce is a nice car. But what gives you the fantasy of owning it, what's the attractive, what creates the irresistible nature of this ad is the words. Okay? Now let's talk about the explosion of video marketing and how the cell phone has absolutely changed the game. Now, any of the 7+ billion people on this planet, if they have a phone, have access to a phone, can use that phone to record a video and post it on the internet. Whether that's on social media, whether that's on their own website, they have that ability, that technology is available. And that technology obviously hasn't been available to us for very long. We're talking about roughly a decade or less. And it's really, in many respects, video marketing still feels really new. There's all kinds of new platforms that have been popping up over the past couple of years. Some of them have survived, some of them haven't. There's new ones. that are absolutely taking over and are creating new opportunity like never before. But the cell phone has changed the game, and it's leveled the playing field. And of course, you can get a little bit more fancy and get on a DSLR camera, or obviously use more advanced technology, more advanced cameras, more advanced microphones. I'm recording this on a what some would call a professional microphone. You get a little bit better equipment over time. That's one of the things that kind of becomes a little bit of an obsession for marketers sometimes, is sort of upgrading their equipment, but it's not mandatory. It's not a necessity. And oftentimes it doesn't make any difference in the engagement, because you can shoot just as quality content on a cell phone and create just as much engagement as you would if you were using a professional camera. So the cell phone, the camera on a cell phone, and the social media platforms that you can quickly upload video to has created this explosion of video marketing, and it's also leveled the playing field. And those of us, of course, who are combining great copywriting with great video marketing and using direct marketing strategies and skills inside of our marketing, are the ones who are turning this opportunity not just into likes and follows and comments, but actually turning those views and those clicks into cash. But this whole game, this video game, actually started quite a long time ago. And as you can see, you probably recognize some of these pitchmen, if you want to call them that. They certainly were that. They were great marketers. They were great performers. And these were the early video marketers. These were the early video marketers. You've got Anthony Sullivan over there. You've got Billy Mays. You've got Tony Little there. You've got the ShamWow guy, Snuggie. These are all products that we recognize because we've seen the short little infomercials, whether they were a quick 30-second pitch, and those fantastic. Those little, when they condense these pitches into 30 seconds. But they actually started as longer segments, as we'll learn here in a minute, during space that was just dead air at night. Even the guy on the left, Tommy Vu, I think is his name, and he had the original real estate seminars that he would be on boats with beautiful women and talking about learning how to do real estate by coming to his seminar. Again, an event. He used direct response marketing to get people to come to events, sold information that way. Then you've got Tony Robbins here, and many people who watched and who were old enough to remember watching TV back in the 80s and 90s would remember, probably mostly more prevalent in the 90s, would remember Tony Robbins in his various different personal development audio programs and so forth that he sold during these, what they called infomercials, right? Infomercials, giving you information during a commercial, right? Really what it was, as we'll talk about in later segments, it was edutainment. It was educational, it was entertaining, and that was the style, the form of marketing that they were using. Of course, direct response, right? Because at the end, order now. Here's how to order. And when you order now, here's what you're going to get. But wait, there's more. Begin stacking the value. Bonus number 1, bonus number 2. And oh, by the way, risk reversal, 30 days, right? There's no risk. Try it out. If you don't like it, send it back. See, there's a formula. And these are the early adopters to this sort of video marketing game. All of these and many more. What's interesting is there's a guy named Kevin Harrington who and you may know him from Shark Tank. In 1985, he created his first infomercial after identifying an opportunity to fill late night and early morning dead air time on cable networks. And while companies like Vitamix had been producing infomercial programs for TV broadcasters since 1949, Harrington's model of replacing time that the broadcaster was normally off the air with entertaining and informative advertising launched the modern infomercial format. And I had a chance to sit down with Kevin Harrington, and we actually talked about those early days of video marketing. Check this out. You did your first infomercial in 1985.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give or take. It might have been a year earlier, but give or take. Yeah.
What was the product that you were selling? You already told the story about how it came about. What were you selling?
Yeah.
Give us a little snapshot into 1985.
So it's a long story, but this is very interesting because when I first actually, because you said 85, but actually before that, and this is why there's a confusion sometimes out in the marketplace on the year. Before 85, I was actually a business broker selling pizza parlors and delicatessens, flower shops, laundromats, and I actually did infomercials to sell businesses, to generate leads for the businesses that I was selling. It was called the Own Your Own Business Show. And we put it on local television. Like you sometimes will see a real estate show where they show house after house after house.
Yeah.
I was the host of the show. I said, welcome, it's the American Dream, own your own business. It's Kevin Harrington. Do you want to own your own business? We've got 20 to show you today. And we showed them Joe's Pizza Parlor and the laundromat and the flower shop and generating leads for my sales team. And so those were the early infomercials that I did. And this actually is dating into the 1983 and 84.
Local? Or was it?
In just Cincinnati, Ohio.
Really?
Right. And then I said, if I can sell a $150,000 pizza parlor, why not a $20 knife set?
Right.
So here I was at the Philadelphia Home Show watching.
Sometimes it's easier to sell something more expensive than it is cheap.
So, but I'm watching the guy cut through a Coca-Cola can with what was called the Ginsu knife, right?
Okay.
And then he was going through a muffler and a pair of sneakers, and I'm watching this pitch, and I'm like, people were throwing thousands of dollars at Arnold Morris, was his name. And I said, wait a minute, I do these 30-minute infomercials, which we didn't even call them that at that time. These 30-minute shows, because I was trying to explain to Arnold, you know, you ever seen, the late night, there's nothing on? I fill those times, right?
Right.
And I said, but I'm filling it with these 30-minute infomercials on businesses. I want to put that product on there. So it was the Ginsu knife. And so that's when we transitioned from lead generation to sell a business and into product sales. And then it just took off because Arnold said, the Ginsu took off. Then Arnold said, you saw me at the Philadelphia Home Show. Did you see any other guys doing their pitches? There was a guy doing an automotive product. I said, no, I didn't see him. He says, well, what if I introduce you to that guy? His name's Billy Mays. And if I introduce you to him, would you give me a little piece of the action? And so I said, Arnold, anybody you bring on, we'll cut a deal. Yes, you'll get covered. So Arnold made a fortune on the introductions that he made to me. Wally Nash had the Chinese walk called the Great Walk of China. And Sandy Mason had something called the Daily Mixer. And of course, Billy Mays had something, he had an automotive product. And so, boom, the rest was history because I was the guy that tied up all of these pitch guys and demonstrators at the fairs and at the home shows way back, starting in the mid 80s all the way through into into today. So Anthony Sullivan was a pitch man and who pitched mops. Yeah. And we did Anthony's first infomercial. And
he did OxyClean
with Billy, right?
Yeah.
So Anthony,
I'm the guy who sits up late at night who watches infomercials, not because I want to buy, because I want to learn.
You probably
the
got
pitch.
your credit card.
Probably, right?
So that was the beginning.
All right, so hopefully that's given you a perspective that's helped you to understand through these last several segments how we combine information marketing, or as many are calling it now in the e-learning industry, with direct response marketing. In the next module, I want to further delve into how getting rich became my business and my hobby. and we're actually going to pull out a sales letter or two. We're going to read it and we're going to study some of these words, because words are what sells. Words are what we use to be able to persuade, to convince, to attract, and to ultimately invite people to buy our products. And since an early age in this game, right? Not in my life, but just in this game, since I've been doing online marketing, information marketing, and using direct response principles as an affiliate, right? As an affiliate marketer, this course is about doing affiliate marketing, but these strategies and these principles have allowed me to be a wildly successful affiliate, much more than those affiliates that were not using these principles that I've been teaching you. So I'll see you in the next video.